Welcome along. You join us at Fujitsu World Tour London. The theme of this year's event is driving a trusted future. At the risk of trying to sound down with the kids, we're going to talk about keeping it real next. We're amidst an age where trust and transparency, it's all come to the fore, hasn't it? Last couple of years, there's been plenty of high-profile examples where companies have got it wrong and they've lost trust. What's that meant for their brand? Has that caused them problems going forward? As we drive through this ever-changing digital transformation world, the need to be trustworthy and transparent surely is only going to increase. Well, here to share their opinions around what we need to do to retain talent, how we enable workforces, can we be agile, how do we think differently, what processes do we need to bring on board? I'm delighted to say we're joined by Metro Technology Editor and Fujitsu World Tour host, no doubt, Lucy Hedges. Paul also joining us, Chief Innovation Officer from ServiceNow. Lucy, you're hosting Fujitsu World Tour for us.
I am indeed.
Driving a trusted future. Facebook, they've done us a favour and shown the world how not to do it and how they abuse trust.
Absolutely.
How do we encourage organisations to think differently in today's day and age?
I think transparency is really important. It's really great technology companies implementing this technology, be it AI, big data, but unless the consumers, that's the audience, the people using that business knows what's happening, I don't really think there's going to be that trust. People need that full understanding of how, their data's being used, how a company goes about its business. People need to understand the true core of what happens. Otherwise, people just feel left in the dark and don't really understand the true nature of what these companies are trying to achieve. And that basically creates a massive amount of distrust.
Paul, what are we seeing through the lens of ServiceNow?
Yeah, so I suppose in the in the enterprise world, we're really looking at it from a perspective of bridging the gap between how consumer data is used versus how enterprise and business data is used. And some of the biggest changes that we've seen is, again, around transparency and trust of the data, but understanding that people, how that data is being used and using it to the best effect to make lives easier, make lives simpler, and make work the way it should.
I've been hearing this phrase, insourcing, being spoken about. Is this the new world, Paul? Or?
Insourcing is an interesting one because I think there's actually a hybrid model. A lot of organisations are bringing it home, as we say. But I think there's still a requirement for companies to have a balance between external suppliers and sources enabling to deliver those services, but also grabbing hold of the core trusted services to ensure that they deliver the value that they need to.
There's been a lot of talk over the last sort of day and a half here at Fujitsu World Tour around the need to be agile, digital transformation. It's supposed to empower workforces, drive greater efficiency. I mean, how do we guide organisations to be agile? What should they be doing more of to deliver agile into the business? Start with you, Paul.
So, the agility really comes from the requirements that employees now have as they do as consumers. So the key point to that is that the expectation at home, what you have on your mobile phone, and you walk into the workplace and you require the same level of support, same level of expertise in your hand, anytime, any device, anywhere, is where we're really starting to see that shift. And most organisations have to change their legacy way of thinking to enable them to deliver constantly and iteratively to allow them to deliver those practices, services and products.
How's technology and the explosion of mobile and social, how's that changed the journalism landscape? Because 5 to 10 years ago, you'd have had to really work your sources to cultivate those stories. Today, every second person is an amateur journalist, and we all like complaining when something's not going right. That's got to have really impacted your industry quite significantly.
Yeah, I think it's, on the one hand, it's fantastic that this information is readily available from people on the front line, not necessarily in my industry, not necessarily a journalist, but you've got to take that information with a massive shovel of salt, because sometimes people don't necessarily have the right information and they're putting that out there, and that kind of creates this untrustworthiness of information, and people really need to really think about what they're reading now online, not just from news sources like the Metro, from social media, from blogs, from vlogs or whatever. People really need to think about whether the information that they're being fed is something that they can trust, and it's really hard at the moment. I think the lines have been blurred somewhat because of that. So on the one hand, I think it's fantastic. Anyone can become a citizen journalist, anyone can put their knowledge out there and their opinion, but it's creating this sphere of untrust that's creating this fake news, essentially, which is obviously a massive talking point at the moment. So for institutes like us, it's really hard for us sometimes to get that information out there. And when we're kind of working against all these citizen journalists, where people are going there on their phone, just getting information from social media, Instagram, Twitter, it's a real battle at the minute. But I always think that the newsrooms will persevere.
We've spoken a bit about the negative. Let's talk some of the positive, because we had some data release, Fujitsu Forum TV back in November, that suggested workforces aren't necessarily getting the technology they want to allow them to do their jobs to the best of their ability. Surely CEOs, they want efficiency and greater productivity. What do we need to be doing more of, Paul? How do we enable our workforces?
So we kind of look at it in three simple ways. So simplification, integration and automation. So a lot of business processes are very over complex, which means that for people to get involved with them and do them means that you get human error, you get all of the things that actually people don't like doing. Some studies we've actually done actually show that from a 5-day working week, 2 of those days are spent doing mundane, repeatable, routine work that effectively can be automated. So that's the simplification piece. The integration piece is using data across your platforms within an organisation to increase that efficiency for your processes and your people. And then the automation piece is, as I said before, is the bits that people don't really want to do, ultimately can be completely automated, and then those people can go and do the jobs that only humans can do. And that's where we're really kind of pushing this, the bounds of automation is phenomenal and really important, but it's not, we don't foresee that we're going to replace workforces. This is not what this is about. We see machines and humans working together, complementary.
And there's a real misconception around this, isn't it? I know Fujitsu are very vocal on their RPA and automation proposition, that it isn't about taking jobs away, but enabling the minds to go and do more important tasks with their
Absolutely
their
right.
time.
Yeah.
What are the first movers doing then? Who's getting it right? Who do we need to look to as a kind of beacon of light to show industry how it's done? Who's out there getting it right?
So we look at it kind of slightly differently. There's a lot of organisations now are trying to be different. And what I mean by that is, if you look at in vertical industries, a lot of banks we work with want to be products and services companies. They no longer want to be seen as financial institutions, because that's what the new generation, that's what the kids, when they're opening up bank accounts, God forbid that, that's actually what they're doing, but they want apps, they want something that works the way every other application works or every other process works. So actually, what we're seeing is in industry, actually people are thinking differently and they're acting differently. So I can't sit here and say that there's specific companies that are the big movers, but it's with a mindset of agility and constant growth and scalability is really what's winning through. And certainly when you come from a talent perspective, when you're starting to retain talent, that's hugely important.
Final question. I know we've got to get you back on stage, have people yapping in my ear if we don't do that. There'll be a lot of boardrooms watching this, Paul, thinking, okay, these comments, they're resonating with me. We probably need to be looking at some of the key topics discussed. If you had one message for them, what would it be?
The time's now. We use the phrase the future of work. The future of work is now. It's happening now. And what we really feel is that people that are involved in the changing way business works are the future of work as well. So it's not just us talking about it, it's not us providing systems and solutions for that. It's actually that the people around us are the people that are going to make a difference in the future. We have to work more closely with those people.
It's a really interesting recurring theme coming out of this year's Fujitsu World Tour. We've had people saying, act now, don't be fearsome of the threats that are out there. You can trust your technology. Yesterday we were talking with the cloud team, and there was an interesting statistic that came out. Apparently 80% of data enterprise data is going to be in the cloud by 2020. Jason Daniels told us that only 28% of companies have fixed their cloud or multi-cloud proposition. Heck of a lot of work to do in 18 months, isn't it? This is what our interviews are all about. We want to get you key insight to the tangible problems your organisation is facing today. By the time we finish later today, we'd have brought you interviews across AI, blockchain, connected world, trusted future, public sector, transport, automation, financial services and retail. There's a whole load of insight on our social media channels. All you need to do is pop on there, put in the keyword most relevant to your industry or a topic that's chimed with you. There's plenty of learning to take place. Lucy and Paul, thank you very much for your time. Good luck with the rest of the day, Lucy. Thanks for watching.